It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, I wanted to share part 2 of the Pacific Office Automation lawsuit. We know that the CEO at Pacific Office Automation is being sued for sexual assault. We also know that the CEO of Pacific Office Automation is on indefinite leave. Folks, this lawsuit isn't going away just because the industry's media analysts don't want to talk about it. And I know some folks are probably saying, Ray, why don't you let this play out in the courts? Why are you talking about this on your show? Because I think it's important. Pacific Office Automation is a $500 million business, the largest dealer in the United States. This story is going to have massive implications in our industry. Ladies and gentlemen, when I did part 1, I told you all, now that the cat's out of the bag, because the Oregonian newspaper has been really on this story, and once that cat got out of the bag, that there's going to be more involvement with this story. There's going to be more lawsuits coming. I believe there will probably be a class action lawsuit sooner or later. Well, guess what? There's an addition to the story. There's an update. Former Pacific Office Automation workers seek over $20 million more in suit alleging sex assault by longtime CEO. One is pursuing $16 million while the other is asked for $4.5 million. The men are already seeking $12.5 million in compensatory damages. $20 million more. The story that won't go away. And at the end of the day, what upsets me about this story is the absolute silence from the industry's leaders. I don't expect the industry's media to ever cover this story. They don't do that stuff. But I remember years ago, there was a pretty senior leader at one of the OEMs that got entangled in a pedophile case and actually went to jail. And the industry was so outraged by this. So outraged. I wonder if that gentleman's working in the industry today. I mean, I'm wondering if he called up Pacific Office Automation and said, hey, I know your CEO is on indefinite leave. I'd like to take his place. After all, I was a CEO of an OEM for their American business, and I could more than easily run a $500 million dealership. Do you think the folks over at P.O.A. would hire him? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to think about what I just said, because the CEO, who's currently on indefinite leave, pled guilty in the 80s to molesting some students at a school where he was a teacher. If that would have been just a few years later, in the 90s, well, he would have been affected by Megan's Law. He probably wouldn't be working at P.O.A. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to ask the question, what is the dealer revenue number, which silences the industry's media? How big does a dealer have to be before you don't say anything that could be negative to that dealer? If it's a $10 million dealer, would you have been all over this? I mean, think about some of the dealerships that are real aggressive in the market, that fight the status quo, and all of a sudden their leader got entangled in something like this. What do you think the industry status quo would be doing? Which is most of the industry, by the way. Oh, they'd be all over this. They'd be screaming about it. But for some reason, if the dealer's $500 million, don't worry about that guy. Think about it. I think about these old men consultants that want to run around. They should have retired years ago, but they're still there, and they want to help the industry. They want to help them innovate. They want to help them navigate through all the challenges we're in. But I'm not going to say a damn thing about any of those challenges. I just want to keep telling you all, if you tiptoe through the tulips with me, everything will just be perfectly fine. The hypocrisy is insane. These latest accusations bring the total accusers to 7, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about this in the first episode of this. The 1987 conviction with the 2 minors. The accusers that were paid off in 2022. The current case pending. There's 7 people involved in this. But those schoolboys back in the 80s, well, that kind of sets a tone, doesn't it? Had he done that a few years later, Megan Law would have applied. You've probably read these stories. I can't even go through them. Some are so disgusting, you can't even read them. Let's talk about some of these other things that are going on in our industry. Things that are being ignored. The DCA lawsuit between MPS Monitor and Obrion, Valsoft. This lawsuit, Pacific Office Automation. All the nonsense of Keypoint Intelligence. Why aren't people calling that out? Why aren't they holding Keypoint Intelligence accountable? They get zero accountability on anything. They talk about how they want to be an e-commerce provider. They've been talking about this stuff for over, 2 years? Where's the success in that? I mean, come on. Cybersecurity, AI experts. The whole time they're out there selling awards. Why aren't the other media folks calling them out? Calling out their bias, their absolute insanity. I think about this Visual Edge nonsense. A non-performing mega dealer for how many years? It's just a train wreck mess, not a word about it. I think about that crazy meeting in the desert, and look, I get it. You want to get together in the desert, hug and kiss each other and have fun. There's nothing wrong with that. Call it a reunion. But there's no accountability whatsoever to that meeting. Remember when they talked about how they were going to bring electrical vehicle charging stations to the marketplace? Oh, it's going to change the world for the dealer. Where's the success on that? Where's all the details on that, right? These are the same folks that kicked off that crazy ERP Forza. We all know where that went, right in the trash can, right? It's out of the industry for the most part. Konica gets it, they dump it. And now, this year at ECS 2025, I'll do a commercial for those folks. ECS 2025, show up and learn about Acumatica, the new ERP for the imaging channel. It is almost comical if it wasn't so damn sad. I mean, this is insanity at every level there possibly could be. And then we got the lawsuit with Great America. Oh, I get it. Great America. Everybody loves Great America. They're great Americans. We can't talk about anything negative going on there. Everybody loved that president of Great America, too. Got shoved out the door, right? It caused him to sue the company. Can you imagine if instead of Great America, it was Wells Fargo? You know, one of those leasing companies that everybody doesn't like? Could you imagine the press? They'd be all over that. Wells Fargo fires president. Holy crap, it's terrible. But Great America, oh, no, don't touch that story. I think about Konica Minolta, their absolute financial train wreck mess year after year after year. Nothing. No, let's give them an award. Let's give the leaders over at Konica Minolta some awards. You know, Konica Minolta, run out and go buy some awards. Plaster it all over your website. Talk about your awards to distract everybody from your poor financial performance. Folks, this whole ERP thing, I mean, my God, you talk about, some people ask me sometimes, Ray, where do you get your content? From stupidity like a new ERP being born in the desert. That is so insane, folks. It is comical. Speaking of the desert, I found this on a blog. You can see the blog, the guy with the hat. A little video. The CEO of Pacific Office Automation back in January of 2022 talking about how you should be vetting your partners. I couldn't even play the video because I just read the title. I mean, they're on stage talking about how you should be vetting your partners. A guy that was convicted, pled guilty to molesting some students where he was a teacher at a high school. Talking about how it's important to be vetting your partners. When does benefit of the doubt become benefiting through ignoring? We've got a whole lot of people benefiting by leaving the P.O.A. story alone. A whole lot of people benefiting by leaving the Great America story alone. I don't think there's a whole lot. There might be 3 or 4 people benefiting by leaving that insanity about an ERP being born in the desert alone. How many people are benefiting by not talking about Konica's inability to produce sufficient profitability? Ladies and gentlemen, I get it. We can give people the benefit of the doubt. But we also have to use our brains and our logic. And we should be challenging a lot of this nonsense. And then the nonsense, when it gets challenged, maybe you'll actually pull something off that would make us all excited. But because we don't challenge anything, we end up with the same old nonsense over and over and over. And that's not disrupting the industry. That's not causing innovation to the industry. That's making suckers out of the industry. And I'll do everything I can to bring your awareness to those that I believe are making suckers out of the industry. Because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there, and I'll see you all on Monday.